Hey guys, welcome back to the Bucket and Think Tank. So, with 2019 having just about ended, we've got days um, before it's gone. Actually, about less than 40, a little over 48 hours, maybe just under 72. So 2 to 3 days. I want to talk about some of my favorite books that I read this year. Some oldies, some new stuff, and we'll just dive into it. So first we have Hikaru no Go, written by Yumi Hota. And this is a story about a young boy who finds a go board while cleaning out his grandfather's attic. And within that go board is the spirit of an old go player from the Heian period of Japan. And what I liked about this was it almost felt like a sort of modern day take on Yu Gi Oh! Like, what if, hold on, what if we just played a game? Our guide is an ancient master of games. And the only real stakes is we'll feel bad when we lose. That's kind of it. Like, the fate of the world isn't at stake. We're not going to get trapped in the shadow realm. One of our classmates hasn't, like, chloroformed one of the other students and tends to grope them. You know, no one's got a gun. We don't got to kill somebody with just our thumb. It's just us playing a game. And Go is really fun, especially going by this. Like, this book got me into playing Go. Like, I now have a Go board. I now subscribe to different Go channels. There's a guy named Incente who um, does very great introductory videos to playing Go. And one thing I also really liked about it was the rivalry. So, Yu-Gi-Oh, in my opinion, has the best rivalry. One of the best rivalries, Yugi and Kaiba. Like, no one played the game harder than those two. It was just amazing. It was intense. But there was something I realized is that the rivalry isn't really that good, and it's because Yugi doesn't really care. Like, he really doesn't. He's Well, if you look at like Goku and Vegeta, they each care to a varying degree about being better than the other. They care about pushing each other to the limits. Hikaru and Akira in this one have a great rivalry because it goes from um, Akira thinking Hikaru is a really great player when actually Sai is playing for him. And then Hikaru wants to beat Akira by himself, and slowly Akira realizes that Hikaru actually is a great rival. Yugi and Kaiba don't do that because Yugi doesn't care. And even Naruto and Sasuke have a better rivalry than Yugi and Kaiba, but the rivalry with Hikaru and Akira is really great because, like how the series goes, it really is just sort of people becoming aware of different players coming up. Like, the mystery of Hikaru's competency comes up when Sai starts playing online. He's able to no longer have to hide who he is because he creates unwanted attention for Hikaru if he's all of a sudden this young Go prodigy. So online, he pretty much becomes a terror online, just knocking out pros all across the world. And it was like, who's this guy? Who's this Sai guy? Who is this guy? And that was great. Just the impact Sai has on the game is sort of amazing in itself. And then seeing everyone else's rivalry, how they all grow and develop as players, is really great. This is sort of. This came out, what, 2003, maybe 2004? And I never finished reading it. So I'm glad I could come back to it and just sort of see that, this is something that we'd see around a lot of sort of, I would call it slice of life anime to an extent, like something like Food Wars, something where it's just like, it's just, we're playing a game. The stakes are, hey, if we lose, we lose, and we come back stronger later. That's pretty much it, and I love this series for it. My only real gripe is something happens around the middle end of it, the middle of the series, and I don't think the book is ever really the same after that. And it's important that thing did happen, and Yu-Gi-Oh sort of swept that under the rug too, because when Yu-Gi-Oh did this thing, it ended. So you can now guess what happened. But overall, I highly recommend you read Hikaru no Go. It's of a simpler time for manga in the U.S., for Shonen Jump in the U.S., where you could just pick up a nice old Shonen Jump magazine at your local Books A Million, Barnes and Nobles, Food Lion, Walmart, and if you were lucky, no one stole the Yu-Gi-Oh cards out, like degenerates. Next is Harleen. So Harleen, written by someone whose name I have tried very hard to pronounce, Stepan Sejic, is a book I didn't think I would like. Not because of Sejic. Sejic he's done great artwork. He did a lot of great work for Aquaman when he was doing the art for that title. Really great. He's done some other books on his own. He's done a lot of fan art, and it's hard not to like his art. So when he came to doing Harleen, at first I was excited that he's getting his own book. I'm like, okay, that's great. He's doing his own book for DC. Maybe for Lucky, he'll like it. He'll sign exclusively to DC. It'll be great. But then it was Harley Quinn. I'm sorry, Harleen, and Harley is sort of one of my least favorite characters that I also like, because I think they keep pushing away from what I liked about her, which was this sort of unhealthy relationship she has with the Joker. And I get why DC moves away from it, because yeah, it's not good for readers to want to readers empathize with Harley, and it just doesn't. You can't keep telling that story. But for me, it just sort of ruins her character for me in some ways. So Harleen is Cedric doing his take on the story Mad Love, which every Batman fan knows. It's the story of how Harley met the Joker and became Harley Quinn. This story plays it sort of the same way. There's narration from Harley about exactly what goes on here. What's different about it from other origin stories about Harley is that with a lot of other different characters are involved, not just Harley and the Joker. We see Harley arriving at Arkham Asylum. She meets Poison Ivy, Croc, Mad Hatter. We see her meet District Attorney Harvey Dent, Hugo Strange when he's not crazy. She meets Batman, Gordon, all of them, and we all sort of are privy to exactly what happens to Harley. What led her to Arkham Asylum as a psychiatrist, what she was doing there, her first meeting with the Joker, how Joker just has an impact on her. And it's really interesting because there's only one real moment where we get to real look at the real Joker early in the book, and after that, it's very easy to forget that he is the Joker, because Harley goes from being afraid of the Joker to thinking she understands the Joker, and saying, well, now I can talk to him, I've seen the tapes. Then she sees one more tape, and now she's not so she can do it. She decides to bite the bullet and then talk to him, and then he sort of just starts winning her over. And it's dark because Harley sort of realizes that as he starts, quote unquote, manipulating her, part of her is like, what are you doing? You shouldn't be doing this, Harley. You got to get out of here. You've got to you got to get your composure back. You have to be professional. And by the time you get to issue 3 of this 3-issue series, I was frustrated. I was angry. I was sort of almost yelling at the book. I'm like, Harleen, what are you doing? You dumb broad, stop this. And it was very much like a Greek tragedy, because you know what's going to happen, but I was able to care about this. Like, no, don't do it. And the last page is very sad. Actually, the last 2-3 pages are very sad, very beautiful. And you kind of want this to be the new status quo. You kind of want at some point for Harley Quinn to go back to being Harleen. Because now she's just sort of a new take on Harley. She's Harley Quinn. Harleen Quinzel. Well, no, just Harley Quinn. I'm stumbling through this. Either way, this was a great story. You should pick it up if you haven't. Wait for the trade. It's probably going to come out next month. Next year. Whenever. It's going to come out sometime in January. I'd say pick it up. Do yourself a favor. You won't regret it. Next was Detective Comics number 1008. So I felt Tomasi's run on Detective Comics has been sort of lackluster. I think it's just sort of the nature of how he wants to go with Batman. I think he wants to take it very slow with no really big arcs going on here. There's no huge epic story spanning 8 to 10 issues. There's I think the longest story was the Arkham Knight. That was maybe 4 issues. But issue 1008 gave me my favorite Joker story, because there's no deconstruction of the Joker. There's no Joker going, we're not so different, you and I, Bats. I'm trying to push you to the edge. I'm trying to change the status quo of the DC universe. Batman's universe will never be the same again after this, Bats. No, it's just, I'm Joker. I'm going to commit a crime. I'm going to kill a lot of people unless Batman stops me. And in one issue, it's done. That's it. It was beautiful. It was great. It was sweet and pungent. Love it. Because there was some good Joker humor. There was some great Batman moments. Batman talking to a kid. It was just right. Ugh. Love it. Loved it. And I think these one-shots are sort of where I really will find my home with Tomasi's Batman, because he wrote another really great one. And I'll have to go into that later when I get back into the swing of doing these reviews. I hate working during the holidays. Don't do it, kids. Whatever you do, don't work. Just don't grow up. Just don't. It sucks. Next is Demon Slayer. So, Demon Slayer, written by Koyohiro Gotouge? I'm terrible at this. I should be better at this. Is a story about a boy whose family has been slaughtered by a demon. And the only survivor outside of him is his sister, who has been infected by the demon. So he is trained to become a demon slayer to find a way to change his sister back. And what I liked about Demon Slayer was that, well, at the end of it all, it feels like it is sort of taking, maybe not intentionally, but a bit of a jab at Bleach. And I love most of Bleach. I don't love Ichigo, which is... Anyway. It takes a certain cues from it. There's the idea of a demon / hollow being able to... There's a Demon Slayer core, same with there's same with their Soul Reapers. Tanjiro is a great shonen protagonist. He's simplistic, he's good-hearted, he's down to earth, and he really loves his sibling. There's a sort of fun Fullmetal Alchemist vibe to him, a bit more for comedic purposes. Like, in Fullmetal Alchemist, whether it's Brotherhood or 2003, is always grim and depressing on every level. But here, it's their bond between Tanjiro and Nezuko that help get them through the day, get them through a lot of these fights. And also the sort of aspect of Demon Slayer, quote-unquote, culture. There's the different squads. There's the importance of the swords, the different fighting techniques. Whether it be, the breath, like your breathing techniques, water dancing, fire dancing. It's all really interesting. It's all really simple and straightforward. So it's very easy to sort of impart yourself on it. Sort of easy, like, I would do this, I would do that. Where I would say with something like Naruto or Bleach, there was a bit too much that was all very much in-depth explained that the protagonist can never really get a hold of, whether it be Kido or multiple elemental jutsus. Sorry, I just went on a bit of a rant with some friends about how all the teachers in Naruto are kind of terrible. Minus Jiraiya and Orochimaru. But between this and My Hero Academia, I couldn't help but like Demon Slayer a bit more. And maybe just because I'm only on Volume 9. Volume 10 will be out actually next week. And it hasn't hit that point where I sort of roll my eyes. With My Hero Academia, I have, because whenever they talk about their villains, I just don't care. I just don't care. Like, they try, they put in good effort, I just don't care. I'm more interested in Class 1A, understanding the history of One for All and how it works. And Demon Slayer hasn't hit that point yet. It's also a bit more faster paced than other manga that I read, like Bleach or Naruto, where, it takes a while for us to find the villain in those. We find the villain here by as early as Volume 1 and as late as Volume 2. Overall, I just really like Demon Slayer. I like Tanjiro. I like the combat system. I like the different characters. I like how the demons work. It's really, really fun. Next, Cold Blood Samurai by Massimo Rossi. And this story is weird and fun. So take Japan and take Europe. Bear with me. Now, take Japan and replace everyone with frogs and toads and some crabs. Then take Europe and replace the Europeans with salamanders. And take The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise and make it better by making it about a salamander who has pretty much been trained to be a samurai, but has dealt with the stigma of being a salamander, quote-unquote a white guy in Japan, and realize your life sucks. And at some point after, the death of your master, the death of your friends, the death of the woman you love, you just kind of want to commit harakiri. But to make it honorable, you have to do it in the house of under the shogun's roof. Shogun's Swollen Cheeks. And over the course of this adventure, mostly involving European war merchants, you're going to find your honor and find a will to live. So what makes this story fun is I am a weeb. I love samurais. I just do. It's a great genre of books. I love the warrior class. It's got helped get me into Star Wars. Actually, Star Wars got me into it, which got me into anime. Everything that I like, everything wrong with me could be attributed to Star Wars. But what I liked about this story was that it felt very much like a classic samurai film in some ways. Like the dialogue there's not a lot of humor to it. It's very serious. There's some pithy humor. There's a lot of talks about Bushido and the warrior's code. And yeah, it sucks to be the salamander here. It sucks to be the salamander samurai. It sucks to be the cold blood samurai. If you want something that's just sort of fun to read, that has some really fun samurai elements to it, I think it's sort of the best way to talk about it. I think you'll like it more if you like samurai. And if you like just seeing them play around with it, play around with the idea that, hey, there are frogs and toads instead of people here in Japan. I'm gonna have fun. And I'm not sure if everyone's to scale though. That's sort of the weird thing. Like, are the toads and frogs and salamanders the size of humans, or is this like the wind in the willows? Like, in other words, the humans are out there somewhere, but we don't talk about them. Overall, really fun. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by Keith Easterman and Tom Waltz. So this story has been fun. This story has made me understand what I do and don't like about the Ninja Turtles. It really has. And that's not saying anything bad about this story, but this story is trying to do everything. And most Ninja Turtles cartoons have tried, but I think with the comic, it's doing a better job because we spend a lot of time getting to everybody's heads. Everyone goes through their own stuff. Splinter leads the Foot Clan for more than like 3 issues, and it's amazing. There's mysticism. There's gods. There's a lot of street level stuff with the Shredder. There's mutants. You know, Donatello has a friend. Michelangelo yells at Raph. Leo has a really, really messed up story happen to him. Everyone meets their mom. There's a fun little retcon to the Turtles. The female turtle was introduced, and it didn't upset me. It was great. What I don't like about the Turtles is when the Utroms and the Krangs get involved. I just don't. Like, they don't belong in space and in other dimensions. They sort of belong with their feet on the ground with a little bit of mysticism. And by a little bit, I mean gods. Like mystical gods and tricksters. But there's a lot of heart to this story. There's a lot of really great stuff. I'm trying to figure out when I actually really like this story. And I think it was definitely when I found out about how they changed the Turtles' origin and how they keep playing around with it. Like the idea that they're reincarnations of 4 of Splinter's actual children when they were around in Japan, when they were humans, I think is a really great way to tie it all together. And even the Shredder is, like, he was Hamato Yoshi's best friend. So it was a really great story. It's still a great story. Some stuff, I'm at the point now where I know what I don't like. When I see it, I'm like, I know I'm not going to like that. So I just sort of like, go past it a bit. And then I'll come back to it later. But overall, this has been a really great story, and I'm loving every minute of it. Next, Avatar: The Last Airbender. So Michael and Brian need to, I think, work together more when they do these books, because while Faith Erin Hicks who's also done some really great stuff for this book, for these graphic novels, there seems to be something missing, and it's the villains. Like Ozai, Zhao, Azula are all really great villains. And these books haven't really had a great villain, and it's a bit depressing. But this story here, it feels like we're sort of saying we could do a better job with Legend of Korra than we did with Legend of Korra. So the first season of Legend of Korra is about the Equalist Movement, which is an anti-bending group. And the biggest crime about that story for me was that it didn't feel like there was an actual argument for anti-bending. It just was like, bending's bad. And Korra's like, bending great. What you talking about, non-bending people? Just, yeah. But Imbalance sort of actually has the group arriving in Cranefish Town, which looks to be the setting for what will later be Republic City, dealing with bending, anti-bending split within the city, and there's attempts to explain, well, not even attempt, like actually do explain what caused this, why it's going around, how do we attempt to fix it, and there's a lot of bending supremacy here. And there's even a question going around where it was like, well, maybe Aang should take away these people's bending. And Aang's like, I don't think I should do that. That's a dangerous place to go to. And even when he thinks about doing it, when he's actually pushed to do it, Katara says, like, you can't do it when you're angry. Like, you shouldn't do this sort of thing to someone because you want to get back at them. You need to do it because you think it's the best possible route. And it's great. There's a lot of great bits of dialogue here, especially from Sokka. This story, I think, is very good for Sokka, and for Toph too. Those two, I think, were right at home at this story, where I think Aang and Katara were just sort of there, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. This story overall sort of reminded me of what I said before, that the plots in Legend of Korra would have been handled better by Aang. Like, everything in Legend of Korra is stuff that Aang wishes he could have dealt with, where Korra really wishes she could have dealt with the stuff from Aang's time. And finally, my favorite book of 2019, Justice League by Scott Snyder, James Tynion. So when Justice League started with Rebirth, it was kind of unremarkable and kind of dull. And it sort of soured me off to the point where I didn't even want to read Christopher Priest's run on it. And depending on who you ask, well, actually, if anyone has read Priest knows Priest is really great. I just didn't care. So then I hear my boy Scott Snyder's coming in here. And I'm like, you know what? Snyder, I want to hear what Snyder's doing. Snyder did a really great talk at the Rebirth panel when it was first announced. He was super excited about everything. And it felt like what he's doing here could be an alternative to Doomsday Clock. And so there's been a rumor going around that Doomsday Clock will actually not be canon. That soon we'll see the black label on it, which means it didn't really happen. Which would be a shame, but what Snyder's doing, I think, could also just as well work, but we also have to ignore a lot of Rebirth. And if we take that out, if we just look at Snyder's run as a whole for Justice League and Tynion's run for Justice League as a whole, it's just really great. Every character gets a moment to shine. Every character has a purpose to be there. They have their favorites. Martian Manhunter, Hawkgirl, and Lex, I think, are the real rising stars of the story, as well as Jaro, who is best Robin. Fight me. It's just been really great. It's been emotional. There's been a lot of great moments. Aquaman and Wonder Woman have had great moments. They've had fun just sort of pairing the characters together just to see them interact with each other. Superman and Batman by default, Martian Manhunter and Hawkgirl, Green Lantern and Flash, just seeing them all interact with each other the way we haven't. Lex Luthor's goal and how he assembles Legion of Doom. I'm also really glad Cyborg is in this book because he has no place in this book. He also has no place on the Justice League. I'll talk about that another time. But it's great to see him not be here because he'll just be weighing us all down. Overall, I really like this story. I really like this run. It'll be a shame to see them both leave the book. And I'm waiting to see how this great story pans out. And that's it for my favorite books of 2019. What were your favorite books of 2019? Do you have any opinions of the books I said? Check out some other videos on this channel. We'll catch you all later. This is Buggy Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching. As always, may your fandom serve you well.